Welcome, everyone. Dr. Anthony Criniti IV here, also known as Dr. Finance. You're on the Dr. Finance Live podcast. We have an amazing superstar here today. We have Marie Diamond. She's a celebrity from the movie The Secret. She's a Feng Shui expert. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but she is an incredible woman. So many amazing accolades. We're going to learn about her today. So welcome, Marie. How are you, Marie?
I'm super excited to be here, Dr. Finance. So yeah, great to be here. Looking forward.
Thank you. Welcome. Honored to have you here. Now, Marie, before we get started with your story, which is an incredible story, by the way, can we get a quick, let's say 30-second snapshot of your career? Just like if you could sum it up for everyone so they know a little bit more about you. Do a better job than I did.
Okay, well, I'm a global transformational teacher, motivational speaker. I'm a Feng Shui master, and I have more than 1 million online students in Feng Shui, meditation, and the law of attraction. And I have reached my goal to attract more than 500 million people in my life by becoming a master teacher in the hit movie and bestseller, The Secret.
That's incredible. Did you say you had over 1 million?
How many? Over 1 million online students, yes.
Wow, that's incredible. And that through your database, or is that, or how do
it is through my database and my publishers? Like I have publishers like Mind Valley Learning Strategies, some very big platforms in Europe that reach the whole European and Russian markets. And yeah, we have a lot of impact already.
That is incredible. That's great. No, the reason I'm fascinated with that, I just hit the 1 million mark for my followers on Facebook this week, but that's very different than what you have. That when you have it as actual students, you've converted them. That's really a big deal.
Yeah, it is. Of course, I have the background of being in The Secret for the last 16 years. And so that is a never-ending story, right? It's the next generation of people now that have started seeing The Secret. And so a lot of people have practiced a lot about the law of attraction, and sometimes they're finding after a few years that they are missing something. And then they start understanding there's a missing link that I provide to the law of attraction, that they are like, once they connect with my work, I have students that have been with me for more than 20 years. So I have very long-term students. Once they come to me, they keep connecting with me, and it's a wonderful journey together.
Wow, that is incredible. That's incredible. All right, so Marie, if you don't mind, I'd like to step back and learn a little about yourself, your story, starting from maybe where you were born, and we'll evolve from there.
Okay, well, I'm originally born in Belgium, in a beautiful city called Bruges, the Venice of the North. And it's really interesting because it's called Bruges. It means bridges, right? It's like bridging people. And so I'm known as a connector. So I love connecting people, I love connecting the dots. I love connecting possibilities. So, it's a really good place to be born for me. And so I was born just in a, lower class family. My father was a salesman. My mom was a teacher, but we had an international component already to the family, as my father had lived and immigrated for 10 years to Canada. So that was actually different than most children in my neighborhood, because every summer we had a lot of Canadians and a lot of Americans come to visit our beautiful town. And I was kind of the tourist guide. So I was very early on speaking English, speaking French, because I'm originally Dutch speaking. So it was like I was every summer in a very international community. And that really shifted a lot for me, or shaped me actually, to immediately think much bigger than my own town. And so at home, we spoke several languages. So it was just different than other children of that time where I lived. But very early on for me, it was about trying to find harmony and find peace. I had in my family was a lot of turmoil, a lot of fighting going on between my father and my siblings that were much older than me. And so I was always looking for peace and harmony. And so when I was 7, I started really connecting in with energy, with meditation. And I also, from a very early age on, could see energy. I could see like the aura fields of people, see the vibration of homes. And so for me, I was very spiritual, but I didn't know that was called spiritual, right? It was just, I could see something, right? And I thought everybody had that possibility at that time. But I started really focusing already on the law of attraction. I already had like a mentor when I was 7 that started telling me things. And when I was 9, I started really drawing. Each time I wanted to manifest something, I was drawing it. So I was like making a painting and drawing it every day till I manifested it. What I would call now a vision board, right? But at that time, I was just, as a child, trying to implement certain things. And that's where I started, to be honest. That's literally very young age. I started connecting with energy and the law of attraction without knowing the words to call it. Yeah.
Thank you, Marie. So let's step back for a second, and I apologize because I as an American, I have a different. I grew up in South Philadelphia in a completely different environment. So just trying to understand your background, your environment per se. Now, I did live in Europe for a while, in Italy, and I traveled to a lot of countries. I didn't really get to spend much time in Belgium. So can you describe like the environment that you grew up in? Like what kind of, is it like neighborhoods like New York or Philadelphia? A lot of urban, skyscrapers, or was it more like
No, Belgium is a very old country, right? It's the Romans were there, so it's like Bruges, where I was born, had Roman ruins. So it was the city was very high evolved in the Middle Ages. So it was one of the gems of the Middle Ages. So there was a lot of merchants. It was one of the strongest cities of the Middle Age. Wow. So the beautiful buildings are still there. They're all restored. It's like with all canals, there's beautiful energy. And it's actually one of the most visited cities still in Belgium after Brussels. So it is a very old city. So it's not like with skyscrapers. So I was living on the suburbs. So, but every day I went to school in that area. And I remember my school the buildings were from the 12th century. I mean, you have to think it's that old, right? So you're like all the time, and it is beauty. It's just a beautiful architecture. And so the people there are very open to the international community, because even at that time already in the 70s, the tourism started when I was like a young child. And so we had all the time, when we went to the city, we saw a lot of Japanese people, a lot of Americans, a lot of Canadians would come. People from all over would come and visit our beautiful town. So it was, in that way, I think it could be compared with Philadelphia, because people come from all over to visit that beautiful place, and because of the beautiful architecture. But we are just like 1,000 years older than Philadelphia.
That's what I'm going to say. Like your environment, we're one of the oldest cities in the country, and it's only about 300-400 years, give or take. The architecture usually about 200 years old buildings. You guys are seeing buildings every day that's 1,000 years old. I mean, that's a completely different perspective, right?
Yeah, it is. I remember I was, my office, I had an office at a certain point, it was from 1642. So it is that old, right? So it's kind of normal. So you live like in a city that has like a veil that opens up towards other times, and so the Mary, like where the mayor lives, is from 1100s. So it's just like, it's a different perspective. I got married in the Gothic, like the Gothic Mary. So it's like, you are surrounded by, history, literally beauty from, 1,000 years old, So it's just a different perspective. But because I lived in a city that was very international, it was normal for us to hear all kinds of languages. And it was everybody in that city spoke at least 2 or 3 languages.
Wow.
Yeah, so because that was the only way to get around, or to have work. You know, if you wanted to have a job in that city, you were in the tourist industry, and so you had to kind of, you know, have these languages. And even the whole Belgium, because we're like the center of Europe, and we are also hosting the European community, the EU, and the NATO, right? So we have all this in our country. If you get a job, you need to at least speak 2 or 3 languages, you know. So we are Dutch and French, or French and Dutch, depending where you were living. And you had to at least speak English because we have so much multinationals. So I studied ultimately law school, international law. And there, to get through it, I had to speak 4 languages. I also had to speak German. So it's a different concept. Belgium is very, very international because we're a small country, but we are linked, you know, with so many big institutions. And we are surrounded by England, France, Germany, the Netherlands. So we're literally very small. It's like literally 3 hours long driving like this, like from west to east, and from north to south, it's 2 hours. So
Wow.
that's how big the city, the country is.
So Belgium holds a special role because of its positioning and history in Europe, where it's kind of like a very different country because it's got the headquarters for so many things, like you said, like European
EU,
Union,
the EU,
NATO too.
NATO,
I think.
yeah.
NATO's headquarters.
Yeah, the NATO headquarters are actually
Wow.
in Brussels. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I know. So, but it's really, I really felt that I was in the perfect place to be born, because I was like connecting in already with the American, Canadian, North American vibration because of my background with my family, and being international. So for me, it was normal when I had decided to go and live in America or to live in other countries. I mean, I lived in 7 countries in my life. It's just like, yeah, it's easy to do because it's just a few hours driving for us.
That is awesome. So how long did you live in Brussels for? I'm sorry, Belgium for?
I lived in Belgium till I was 38, and then I decided my vision was to, you know, reach 500 million people, and it was already quite successful in Belgium as a motivational speaker, as a teacher of energy and meditation and feng shui, and I already was actually you know, having us clients, top clients in Belgium. Like I had the prime minister at that time as a client. So it was like, I was really like reaching the top, and I felt like, you know what, if I want to really get for a bigger audience, I need to let go of this country. I mean, you have to understand, this is before the online possibilities of YouTube and you know, Facebook. So for me to reach a bigger audience, I had to get out of the country. I had to spread my wings, what I did, and I came to live in America on the West Coast at that time.
Wow. All right, so let's step back, because I think we jumped like 22 decades.
I know.
All right, so you grew up in Belgium, in the pretty much outside the city, and what point did you decide you wanted to go to college instead of maybe possible alternatives?
Well, you know, in Belgium, I would say 80% of children go to college. You know, it's quite easy to go to college. It's very funded by the government. So it doesn't cost you like in America. I was telling my daughter, like as she's applying now for a college, I said, well, it costed us $1,000 a year. That's
it? $1,000 a year? Wow.
So to be honest, it's, you know, even as a student, my parents could not even afford that. So I had to, you know, work in the summer to do extra jobs to get to that money. So, but yeah, it actually shifted for me when I was 15. I had a very intense experience where I had what we call near-death experience. And after I came back from that near-death experience, I really felt my focus was to reach millions of people and to help to transform their life. And at that time, I did not know about what we do, right? That did not exist in Belgium, to be honest. So I thought, well, if I would become a diplomat and working for the United Nations, or I would work for the EU, the European community, because it's all, close to us, then I would reach more millions of people, or I would study more politics or become an international lawyer. So for me, that was like the reason why I chose to go to study law, because I thought that would be a good basis for getting an international career. And not because I wanted to be a lawyer, I just felt that was like a good basis to expand and to know more about, the structures, the political, the social structures, and to see if I could find my way in it. So that's the reason I chose to go to law school.
So you wanted to become an international lawyer, right?
Yes.
Not a domestic lawyer.
No, I want to become an international, because also
Wow.
I was very fluent in several languages already at that time, more fluent than my friends.
Wow.
So, and also because then I knew that would be a possibility to get out of the country. So that was also a plus point. I became a lawyer and I did international law. And then I started working for the Belgian government. And I was representing a Department of Agriculture, where I had to negotiate with other countries and travel sometimes to other countries as their main lawyer in the department. So that started happening right away. And then I also started working in the European community as a lawyer. And so I started traveling more. But after about 5 years, I was like, yeah, that's not really it, because I was not making such an impact as I thought I would be as an international lawyer. I mean, I was really good at it. I was making an amazing promotions every year. I was very, loved in the work I did, but it didn't sink in with a passion to really transform the world. I didn't feel like I made a huge transformational impact. I was making a huge legal impact, but not transformational enough. So I felt that at that point I needed to shift.
Yeah. So coming at this from a money perspective, you probably were getting paid tons of money. You had your career was taken off. So obviously you were proving that what you did so far was good, but
Yeah.
there was an emptiness. There was a void that it just felt like you weren't fulfilling your purpose per se. Everything else was good, but your shell still, you're not letting that purpose out of the bag. Did you feel like
is, because I ask myself every day since I was 15, I'm here to enlighten more than 500 million people. Show me how. That's my mantra every morning, right? And so, I mean, I was definitely impacting. We redid a whole, legal books from Belgium. We changed laws that were really beneficial for a lot of people. But it's like you don't have the direct impact. You don't, you do something, but you don't see what it does as a change in people's life, right? So for me, that was, as I'm such a connector, like I couldn't talk to the people that the change was happening for. And so that was really like making it more difficult for me. But at that time already, I was started having my first coaching clients. People in my department, they would ask me like, oh, how are you always so joyful? How are you always so positive? Like I would come in and like things would flow for me. Like things were just manifesting, and I was just, projects that took 3 years manifested in 1 year, or projects that took 2 years and 6 months. And they were like starting to notice that I did something different. Yeah. And so I also was working with a lot of politicians already at that time, top politicians and Supreme Court judges. And like, I was like this young woman that was like talking to all the top people in the political world. And so they wanted first to get me into politics, but I refused for that. I said, no, Belgium is too small for me. I go bigger than that. And so they started asking me questions, and I started, taking time for them to uplift them. And then at a certain point, I was like, I need to step back from this. And I started a consulting company. And my first clients were actually politicians. So they actually, because I already had been talking to them, they're like, oh my God, you're leaving. I want to keep coming to you. I say, yeah, but this time it's as a consultant, right? And so what was really interesting, because I remember I was paid very well already, but I was still on a salary. And suddenly I saw that what I made in a month, I made in a week. So, as a consultant. And then later on, of course, it was what I made in a week, I made in a day. And later on, what I made in a day, I made in an hour. So it's just like, it's how things evolve, right? In that direction. But the first clients were the political, I would say not clients, but connections I had. And I would start teaching them, meditation. Like they said, how do you do this? And I said, well, I meditate every day. So I started meditating with them. I started clearing their blockages, because I had learned through my own journey how to clear energetic blockages. If I hit, a ceiling, like, okay, what is it that I need to change in myself? So I was helping them. And before I knew it, they were asking me to come and speak for their circles, to be a motivational speaker, inspirational speaker. So that's what I started doing. And that was just, from there, it kind of started taking off.
Maria, I just want to pause for a second, because, we're new friends, but from what I know of you so far, I just can't picture you in politics. And then you're telling me this story, and I'm just thinking, wow, no wonder they're all coming to you, because you're completely different. You're full of energy. You got a totally different perspective. Yeah. And, it just makes, your story makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, you could have went into politics, but like you were saying, it's just that you weren't getting that vibe. And you probably could have made a lot of impact just coaching politicians as a career, and maybe change the world that way. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, and I still do, there's still politicians coming to me. But, at a certain point, I really got this vision that, and I remember I call it the tower of champagne glasses, like in a wedding, they have like this tower with all the champagne glasses stacked up, and then they pour the champagne on top, right? And so I felt like at that point I was doing that. I was like pouring nectar, what is, a good positive vibration on top, to the top people. But then at the end, like they see that the champagne doesn't come to the lowest champagne glass, and then they pour on the bottom, right? So I start seeing that I need to work on both levels. So I started actually doing seminars, conferences in Belgium. And I remember the first time I did that, literally nobody showed up. Nobody showed up, because the politicians wouldn't come to my seminars. Of course not, they want private information, right? Private connection. And I was like, okay, what do I do? And I would like, there were 40 chairs. And I always say, even my husband at that point, and my mom, I invited also, they didn't even show up. But that didn't stop me. I was like, okay, I'm here 2 hours. I'm going to teach for 2 hours to empty chairs, because one day these chairs will be filled by millions of people. Mm-hmm. And so the next time I did another seminar, 2 people showed up. And before 6 months were over, there were thousands of people coming to my seminars. Wow. And so I was young, I was 31 years old. There was nobody in Belgium that was like 31 years old and talking about meditation and positive energy. And so suddenly, like, everybody was like, who is this young woman, right? And so still I had my high-end clients, and over the years, I always kept attracting leaders in the world, not just politicians, but later on celebrity clients. And so, but I never have to do something for that. They always come. So I'm not somebody that markets that at all. They always just come. I attract them. It's like when their souls are ready to connect with me, then they show up, right? Mm-hmm. And but then the seminars, that's where I learned that I need to do business. Like coaching somebody, it didn't feel like business, but I had to like set up a business for my seminars, because I had to get a crew, I had to get, assistants. So suddenly I come from a background where nobody is really doing is entrepreneurs. They're just all employed people. And suddenly I had to, become a businesswoman. So that was a big
Wait, that's when you became an entrepreneur. That's the moment.
yeah, that's when I became an entrepreneur.
Wow.
And I was like, I had no idea how to do this, but I was successful from day one. So it's just like, I was just, not knowing, I had to like jump in the water.
So I relate to this story that you're telling. So you started this seminars. It was seminars, right? You started seminars and you took a shot and no one showed up the first time. Can I tell you a story, Marie? Right, folks, before we started, I was actually chatting with Marie for a few minutes, telling her about how I got my name on Clubhouse. And believe it or not, before that story that I told you, Marie, the 84-day longest running room, I actually experimented a few times. I would go in the rooms, open up my own rooms, and 3 times that I can remember off the top, it could have been more. I remember I started rooms and I had hardly anybody in there. The first time I sat there for 2 hours and had 0 people on the stage. I mean, they were coming in. If you see the way Clubhouse works, they would come in, they would look around, nobody's here, and they're out. So no one came on stage for 2 hours. I was just sitting there. I'm like, all right, when's people going to come here? I'm relating to your story because you started out in the beginning and you had that same experience. You could have left. Yes. I could have stopped too, but I kept going. You kept going. And eventually, in my case, the longest running room impacted over 1 million people, just that one room alone.
Amazing.
And you kept going. Yeah. And that's a quality of a successful entrepreneur.
Yes, I would definitely say, and I see that sometimes for people saying like, oh, I started something and 1 person showed up. I said, wow, 1 person showed up, right? Like I was like, and they're like, oh, you're so excited about that. Yeah, because nobody showed up for me. But you already are better than me when I started. So it's this vibration you have to keep going. And it is, determination, but also consistence moving forward, even if nobody is there and nobody believes in you. That is part of a successful entrepreneur. And you will hear that from any successful entrepreneur. I'm sure in all your interviews and connections, you have heard the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Consistency is extremely important, but also knowing how to market. So that's my next question for you. How did you get them in the doors? How did you figure out after you failed the first time and said, all right, I got to do something different. How do I get these people in here?
Yeah, I have to be honest, I had no idea how to do it. What happened for me, there was like, at that time, it was just referral marketing. People just would talk to other people. I mean, there was no marketing system at that time. But one thing I started doing, and I mean, I didn't learn from anybody at that time. I was always getting ideas and I just would try to implement them. And one of the ideas was I created newsletters, but like physical newsletters. And so not magazines, but just like, 10-page newsletter. And I would start sending it out. And there was like, nowadays we would call it a blog, right? I just would create a beautiful article and then say, these are the seminars I'm doing about these topics. And I have a special retreat, like twice a year, I did that. And so I just would write something and literally people would pass on this newsletter. And people start copying this newsletter. I mean, this is before internet, right? Wow. So I didn't know that, but then people would say, they would come like, oh, I have your newsletter. And it was like totally copied or they faxed it to somebody. I mean, it was really interesting. So it was really referral, but I was giving great content. And I think that is one of the things that I've always been about, is giving great content and giving more than I promised. So if I would say it's from 8 till 10, I would go to 11:30, right? So I would always make sure there was a lot of time for people to ask questions to me. I was always very present with people. I would welcome everybody on the door at the seminar. I would hug everybody when they left. I mean, I'm always about generosity of the heart. Yeah, that's a really important part for me in business. And so that was like being really present with everybody that came and being a listening ear and giving them some advice, even if they didn't pay for my advice, right? I would always give them advice. And then people start asking me for personal sessions, like coaching sessions. And so because I was giving so much advice already, and you can say, well, I didn't get paid for it when they were there in my seminar. Well, they paid for the seminar, but not like for the extra 5 minutes here and there. I was just there. But then people like, I want to talk more to her because what she says makes sense to me. And so before I knew it, then I had like a waiting list for a year.
Wow.
People were like, I want to be with her. And I just would start asking, money, of course, for these things. And then I had like come to this agreement with myself, because I'd studied economics, of course, like, okay, when there's an offer and there is a saturation if the offer is so asked for. So I was like, each time I am booked completely, I double my price. So that's what I started doing, right? I remember the first time it was like people for a session, they would pay 50 Belgian francs. That actually is now $1, with inflation, right? But it was like, okay, and that was full. My agenda was full. That price, we doubled on that to 100, then to a 200, then to a 400, and people kept paying me. And I was like, whoa, this is really cool, right? And so, and each time I have followed that same principle, also for the seminars, like, hey, if I was booked out, okay, we'll double our price. And so, and that's kind of some principles I used without really knowing exactly what marketing was about. But I started also having a really good customer feedback. So I had 3 assistants. People could call anytime to my office. There was always somebody there to make sure that they could, I have this issue. Okay, Marie's not here, but knowing Marie, she would answer you this. So that was before emails, so that people had to call, right? So these principles I always kept going to have the best, excellent customer service as I could give. And when I was present with people, that I would take more than I could the time to be with them. So generosity has been one of my values for my business. And still today, I have students that were with me the first year in Belgium and are still studying and being with me. And some of them are very good friends now. But that is, that part, but also being very authentic was a part of my marketing. Like I would, especially as a teacher, I would not just motivate them. I would tell people, this is my issue right now, and I'm trying to get through this problem. And I'll keep you updated how I get through this problem, right? So people knew I was just very authentic in who I am and where I am at in life. And so that was actually, I always felt a really good marketing aspect. And I see that now that people are doing that, like even in Clubhouse, people are very, they're telling where they are at. But at that time, that was very undone. That's something people didn't do. People would tell oh, I'm this and this and this, but I would say, yeah, I'm this, but I'm still struggling with this and this, and people just love that. So that's kind of my marketing plan at that time.
No, that sounds great. And Marie, if you don't mind, I want to pause. I hearing your story, I think the newsletter keeps ringing in my head. I think it was the newsletter, and correct me if I'm wrong, that really gave you that push to take you from entrepreneur to successful entrepreneur, because I know you're not putting too much stress on it, but that's how you pushed it out to the environment to attract the people to you. And you must have been doing something right. How long was that newsletter?
Well, it was 10 pages. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was 10 pages, and I would give it 3 times a year. And in there would, of course, be all my seminars, were, all the information, because that was the only way that people could get it. But there were articles in it, things that I wrote, or messages, or an affirmation, it was like a little magazine in a way, but very cheaply made. I have to be honest. It was just done on a copy machine. But I remember when it was time, I had to bring in, tens of people to help to, make it. And I was like a little publisher from that newsletter. And then we had to bring, like thousands and thousands of newsletters out to the post and to send them off, right? And it was just a week of intense preparation to do that. But for me, it was like, I would also, there was another thing, I would not just make these newsletters, I would make sure I would put in my hands on, the stacks of newsletter and just put blessings in it.
Ooh,
and
wow.
put positive vibration in it. And so, people that worked with me on it, they were all volunteers at that time to make that happen. We always had a great time. There was a lot of fun. So there was good vibrations around that newsletter. So I always felt it was infused in the newsletters, that it was super good, but there was no pictures in it. It was just written text. I mean, literally nowadays, I would not even dare putting it out this way. But I think it really made a difference, because people would come, with that little newsletter in their hands,
This was pre-internet, right?
It was
Before the internet.
pre-internet. I mean, this is 90, 94, 95, right? And then very quickly, once the emails start coming in, I'm kind of a techie, so I love all this new things. So I was like, oh, internet, right? Emails. But, people still didn't have email addresses in Belgium. People didn't have computers. So I had to kind of then, the moment I could do it, send newsletters out to these people and get a database. And that was like pre internet. But, I always thought, I need to go back, I need to come with my time, right? So the moment there's a newsletter, or there's an internet, or I always jumped, like when there was teleconferences, I jumped on that. When the Zoom, I was one of the first Zoom users, it's like I had an app before everybody had almost an app. So I've always loved to be on the forefront to see how can I reach people. Yeah. And not everything works for you, right? So for you love Clubhouse, right? So it's for somebody loves that, somebody it's not your thing, but you need to keep moving forward with what you do. And that consistency is definitely key. Yeah.
How many times did you do the seminars? Like once a month or once a week?
No, I did 3 seminars a week.
Wow. 3 a week?
I was like traveling all the time, because people were asking, oh, I cannot come that far. Can you come here? We'll organize a seminar here. So I was like for 5 years straight, I was working like crazy, like driving. I had even to get drivers because I just couldn't drive that much anymore. It was so busy. It was a very successful time in Belgium. And it was new for people to see somebody who, I was also having a business, because a lot of people that were doing my work had nonprofits. I was like one of the first that had a for-profit business. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was interesting changes.
Wow. Thank you, Maria. That's an incredible story. And it's really an interesting story relating to Clubhouse. I'm wondering if you were to do the same thing, what you did, in the 90s, is it possible to do the same thing today? And let's add a little twist to that question. Yeah. How about on Clubhouse? Is it possible to do what you did and just use a different tool this time? Instead of newsletters, we're going to have rooms, once or twice a week on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
I think that is totally what you should do, right? I mean, I'm myself just really starting on Clubhouse, but because I don't really have always that much time. Yeah. But I think having that regularity, right? It's like the law of repetition. Yeah, it's a very important law, I think, energetically. So the fact that you would show up and show up and show up, and each time give amazing content and bring in amazing speakers. And, many speakers are very open to come and speak about what they have to offer. Speakers, teachers are always looking for platforms to reach more people. And I think that's where Clubhouse is just amazing. I love Clubhouse. I love listening to it, and I'm excited to be on your Clubhouse. But it's this, it's an amazing platform. I love the platform so much. I listen all the time because I can stay on the background and I don't always have to be the speaker, right?
Yeah.
That's sometimes, also good for me to just be the listener instead of the one providing the content.
No, absolutely, Marie. I agree with you. I run the stage, takes a lot of energy out of me, but I'll tell you, sometimes I just like to go in rooms and they try to moderate me. I say, don't moderate me. I don't want, because when they see I have the moderating badge, they think I'm normal me and I'm going to be inviting people to stage. I don't want to work now. I just want to be on stage and relax. So, but yeah, the Friday night room, the reason I asked you is because that's what I've been doing for about a year now. I'm still trying to figure out how to do what you did to transition into the monetizing part. I mean, there's certain ways that it's working that I didn't expect. Like I'm getting involved with movie deals, being executive producers and things like that. I never would have thought all that would just came to me. But from a money perspective, the way you ran those seminars, I just can't see them turn, I can't see charging people into the room because the competition's not doing it. As long as the competition's not charging, why would they want to come in your room? Even though it adds more value, it's a harder sell.
Well, perhaps, Clubhouse will evolve, and make a difference. I think that could be a good way for the future for Clubhouse to have like 2 tiers, right? Where you are having more the open Clubhouse and then a more VIP Clubhouse. It's like, it's the same if you go to a club, literally a club, have a VIP room, right? And so when you go to the VIP room, you immediately know that you have to buy a bottle of champagne, right? So, so it's just like, it's a different aspect. So perhaps they will come up with a VIP room. I think that could be a really good marketing tool for them actually too.
Marie, you came up with that idea. Maybe it's something we can do.
I would love that. I would love that. No, but it's true. It's just like, one of the things that over the years, because I work with, of course, a lot of entrepreneurs, not just politicians, and a lot of, multi-millionaires and billionaires, is like sometimes they're so focused on their business, they don't see little extras that they could do. And I'm really good at that when I work with my clients. I'm like, oh, I have this idea. Oh, I have this and that. Oh my God, this really, and so it's because I can see things in a different way, and so sometimes that's one of the things I do now for businesses and top speakers. They bring me in as looking at their energy and what is going on in their business and seeing where their blockages are, but also seeing where they're overlooking, some money possibilities for them.
Wow. Thank you, Marie. Appreciate that. All right, Marie. So I have a series of questions I usually ask each guest, but first I want to finish the story. Is there any other parts you'd like to add to the story to complete your story?
Yeah, of course, because we're still in Belgium, right?
Yeah, we're still in Belgium, right? We didn't even get out of Belgium yet.
So I made a decision at 38. I was starting to go to America. I started again from scratch in America. I just went to America, rent a room, put some flyers out, and again, nobody showed up, right? It was the same principle. And, but I kept going, and it was interesting, it was a conference room on the street, so people could pass by. And by noon, even I was teaching a whole day, but I was teaching, nobody was there, right? And by noon, there were 12 people in the room. So they just had seen me, like, they were like, what is this woman doing? She's like talking to empty chairs, right? So they were so curious. They started coming, and they were like, some of these people became long-term friends. And so they were so excited about me, and they started bringing me in. And I went going back and forth between Belgium and America for a couple of years. And then one day I woke up in America and I really got very clearly, you have to move to America in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Oh, you have to understand that's not possible legally, right? But, I'm a lawyer, so I found a way to kind of, be able to, for a short term, come over. And so what happened is the moment I moved here, I did again a seminar, because by then I had like 30, 40 people come to a seminar. I was not big, but just starting, right? And because a lot of people in America said, but Marie, there are thousands of people like you. What do you come to do here? And I said, yeah, but nobody is as unique as me. So like, because it's the same thing, you know, some people are saying like, there are thousands of coaches, thousands of speakers. I said, yeah, but you're unique. Your story is unique. So I was like, not worried about that at all. I had done that in Belgium. I could do that in America. I had a lot of confidence in it. And so what happened then is that 2 weeks later I did a seminar, and one of the people that walked in was a motivational speaker and, you know, already multi-million-dollar selling book author, Marcy Shimoff. And she was writing The Chicken Soup for the Soul for Women together with Canfield. And so she came in and she was so blown away by what I was teaching that she's like, I want to hire you. I want to introduce you. And so she's the one that opened the doors for me to meet Jack Canfield, to meet John Gray. And they all became my clients. Literally at that time, I was not just motivational, I was already a feng shui master. And that was actually where they asked me their help, because they all felt they were hitting a ceiling, even with all their knowledge. And so they were like, something is off with us. We don't go to the next level. And that is how I got in connection with like top people that I had no clue who they were. Like literally, I had no clue who was Jack Canfield and John Gray and Bob Proctor. Like, and there was just nobody that I knew. I mean, I'm from Belgium. I do not have good books. So, but that was actually, I think, very charming for them that I did not know them, right? And so I started not only being the feng shui master, I sometimes mentored them, I helped to clear some energy for them. And then Jack asked me to be part of the Transformational Leadership Council, who was like a group of his friends that he wanted to bring together. And first time was in his living room. And one of the things that happened was that I was in the midst of people that had already sold millions of books. And I just like probably was known by that time by 200 people in America, like really almost nobody. And, but I was there, you know, I was invited in that group. And I asked Jack once, I said, why do you invite me? He said, well, I need somebody from Europe here. And he said, I know one day you'll be as famous as everybody else. I just know that.
Wow.
And I'm like, and I was like so shy. And I was like, okay. And I was sitting way in the back of the room. And then it was a perfect place because there was a publisher next to me and he published my first home study courses that sold to 15 million people. Like, it was just like really, really interesting. So it was like all meant to be. And then the Transformation Leadership Council, that's where Rhonda Byrne was invited in our third meeting to do the interviews for The Secret. And that is where she was again sitting next to me by coincidence and asked me if I wanted to be interviewed. And I said, yes. And she said, well, it's for Australia. I said, I don't care. If I reach millions of people in Australia, that is good by me, right? And so a lot of people said no to her, which is really interesting. They regret that for the rest of their life, right?
Right.
And so, but I was enthusiastic, like, oh yes, it was my first time in front of a camera. I never been in front of a camera at that point.
Wow.
And so I did this interview for like 2 hours.
That's the interview for The Secret you're talking about, right?
For The Secret, yes.
Wow.
And she was like, you're going to be in this movie because you talk about something completely different than anybody else. And I said, of course I'm going to be in this movie because I'm here for enlightening so many people. And so then I became her mentor. You know, I helped her together with Bob Proctor. Her and he and me were like her constant mentor to help her move forward through all her blockages that she had to. And I introduced her to the publisher to get the book. And so from there, you know, I've reached, 500 million people with The Secret. So check.
Wow.
Done.
That's incredible. So what is this leadership council thing? I had Dr. Joe Vitale on here. You're probably like, I think the fourth or fifth secret person on the show so far. And he talked about the leadership council as well. So I'm trying to understand the secret story a little bit. So this leadership council is the just a group of really
So
influential
it's
people?
actually friends of Jack, that Jack Canfield, that started coming together.
Oh,
So
okay.
Jack was like, you know, we all have mentors and we have students or clients, but he was like, you know, I want to connect him with peers, you know,
Yeah.
because we're on the same stages, but, you know, we're going on and off the stage. We never have time to talk to each other. So he invited for 3 days some of his peers that he just wanted to hang out with, you know, and there was like Dr. John DeMartini was there, and Joe Vitale was there, and they were like, you know, Lisa Nichols, and many people from The Secret were actually there before The Secret, right? And so we just were hanging out for 3 days, and it was just such a success. We were just so happy to talk like as human beings, not just like on the same stages, but just, you know, hanging out around the pool, and, you know, so
At
we
Jack's house, right? In
at
Santa
Jack's
Barbara?
house, yeah. And
Wow.
then the next time we came together at the farm, you know, the bio farm from John Gray. And then it became too big because we were inviting other friends that we went to, you know, 5-star hotels or 6-star hotels. And so every 6 months we come together for 5 days. And we do that since 17 years.
Wow, you're still doing it, right? It's still
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on?
we're still doing it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's of course through the pandemic we did it online. But what it did, it's just like, first of all, amazing friends. That's the first thing. But also that's where I got in The Secret. That's where I got to connect with Learning Strategies. That's where I connected with Mind Valley. So it is also a networking, but that's not the purpose. The networking is not the purpose. It happens, but it's more like being able to connect heart to heart with people that are in the same industry, that are all global players. Now, to get in, you have to be a global player, of course. And it's just because, you know, we are always giving to the world, we're always impacting positively, and we have our mentors. But, you know, hey, sitting next to Jack and talking for a half hour about, I don't know, art or whatever it is, like, or personal lives, and then doing a lot of clearing, we always bring some people in, we teach ourselves there if we have like a new idea. So it is, and we party a lot, so that's also good.
How many people are in the council now?
There's 140. Yeah.
Wow.
140, and it's an exclusive club in that sense that when you want to get in, you have to be nominated, and then you have to be voted. So everybody has to agree that it's a good match, you know. But it's not exclusive in the sense that we want to keep it exclusive. It's just you know, we are very confidential to each other there, right? So there are people there, sometimes they have great, amazing successes, but they also have failures. And we're also there to support each other in the moments that, you know, it's not going so well. So it's, in this way, it's exclusive because it's private, because we know each other so well. And it's been, you know, a highlight in my life to be part of that. And because a lot of people from Europe could not be part of that because it's mostly North and South America, I actually started 10 years ago the Association for Transformation Leaders, like a European chapter for that I preside. And so we have people that are in Europe or in their own countries, you know, great speakers. And so I do the same thing. And every 6 months I come together with them for 3 days. So it's like, you know, there's the global aspect, and then we have the European aspect. And we just did an amazing event for meditations, you know, for the Eastern European crisis, where, you know, we spoke in meditations in 18 languages. So it just, you know, it's really beautiful to see how we are a heart-based community, and we're here to enlighten and impact the world. But like I said, sometimes we just need to connect with somebody. Like if I could come to Philadelphia and having lunch or dinner, it's such a wonderful experience.
Oh yeah, it's a completely
so
different
that's in my
experience.
agenda, and it's on my wish list now.
One of the oldest cities in America. You're always welcome. I'll give you a tour. Wow, that's really cool. And I'm glad you explained that, because I've heard about this several times now, and it's just, you know, sometimes they say you got to hear it like 3 or 4 times, sometimes 7 times. I think that 7's the magic number that floats around before you really get it into you. But you know, knowing that you were a part of that, I'm glad you explained that in depth.
Um,
I didn't know Jack started it.
member. I'm a founding member. I mean, I was like,
Wow.
the other founding members were like, multi-millionaires, and I was just starting.
You were at the right place, the right time, and you were. You know what I'm finding another common theme between you and I, Marie. Like, you found a way to just serve people, and even though it might not have been your core strength, whenever the opportunity arises to serve somebody, if it was helping, you're like, all right, well, it's not really what I do, but okay, I'll do it.
Yes.
And you said yes to it. It was the same with like me with like Clubhouse, like, and this podcast. I never thought that I'd be a leader on Clubhouse hosting rooms. I didn't even know I had that quality. But when I found that people wanted me to do that, they liked the fact that I was doing that and I was serving people, I went with it. Podcast, same thing. Like you did that with so many different aspects of the story already. It's incredible.
Well, I think it's a common factor I see in all the great successful people, in our industry, let's call it industry, but or movement, to improve people's life, right? To create them to their full potential. There's a generosity of heart. I don't think you're doing this work if you don't have that generosity of heart. You can, of course, start going like, hey, I want to make millions of dollars, but these people, they disappear. They really do. When people ask, Marie, you're doing this already for 30 years, right?
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, but it's because I have such a love for people. I have such a heart for people. And that comes across, when you do that, where you really have that genuinity of, I want to help people. Of course, we gladly getting paid. And when people say like, I can't afford your prices, I said, yeah, but there's tons of material on YouTube. There's tons of material on my Instagram, so there's for everybody possibility. And of course, my prices are what they are because I serve, the high-end clients. And also I have my name and my global value, and value is okay to be paid for. But I always make sure there's so much information available for people that they cannot afford me at all, because I think that's giving back, it's contribution, it's positive impact. And I see sometimes people say like, I started there and then I got, to, making more money. I could pay an online program with you. At least I could do that. And, and now I can afford you. Right. So, and I said, but that's, but still I'm there for you. And when you see me on the street, I will take 5 minutes of my time to be with you. Like, why not? Right. What would be, it's meant to be then. Yeah.
Absolutely, Marie. Thank you. All right, Marie. So, and then the end of the story leads us to present, or do you want to fill in the gaps? Because I got a lot of questions that are basically going to hit on some of the highlights, and we're going to digress a little bit.
Let's go there. Let's go to your questions.
Okay, cool. All right. So first thing I want to talk about is your books. Let's start with the fact that we're actually, I don't even know if you know this, but so I'm part of the 13 Steps to Riches series. So you're the celebrity author. And but I'm actually just a regular author, and I agreed to be this because I just like the whole concept of analyzing Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, one chapter for each of his 13 steps to riches. We're going to have their own book on. And Marie, you got your own book dedicated to you as the celebrity. I'm not sure which one it is. It might be 6 or 7.
It's organized planning.
Organized planning. Oh, I just read that. That would be with chapter 7. With chapter 7, the 6th step of riches.
I think so.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like one above, the chapters are one above the steps for some reason. So yeah, you want to tell us a little about your books and then of course the 13 steps as well?
Yeah, of course. So the book set all my students have. It's the first one is called the Energy Number Book. So this is actually connected with when people start practicing my law of attraction approach, my system. We actually have a numerology that people check out, and then based on that energy number that you have, you actually are implementing the law of attraction in your home and in your office. And so it's also connected with an application. It's a free application that you can find, a Marianne app. where they can check out based on their birthday, what is their energy archetype. And then based on that, again, with telling where's your success energy, where's your relationship energy in your home. So it's a whole setup of feng shui and law of attraction. So that is like one thing that I suggest everybody to have is the energy number book. This is like your good start to implement the law of attraction in your home, because feng shui is the quantum physical level of the law of attraction in your environment. And that's also why, Eric wanted me to do the organized planning, because, it's really important to have a structure around you that is connected with your goals for richness. And so your home is actually is part of your structure. Yeah, the way you set things up around you is part of that. So, and the second book that, a lot of people's international bestseller is called Transform Your Life, where I tell some of my stories, but also I give them again a lot of tips and meditations to really go to 24 principles of transformation. And so I do believe in order to be a really transformed human being, there are principles about your success and money that you always need to focus on, principles about relationships that you need to always work with, principles about your health and about your wisdom. And wisdom for me is your evolution. So, for example, one of the principles for me is joy, right? And I think joy is a principle of success. So when you enjoy what you do, when you bring joy through your services and through your products, that actually makes you a successful person. Because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you will need to shift, right? To try another career. So enjoying yourself in what you do and who you are is a key factor of success. So I give you like an example of that. But based on that, there are also colors connected to that. So the color of joy is orange. Yeah. So I think for Chinese New Year, they will put everywhere oranges out. Yeah. So when people want to have, a fun and joy, then putting some oranges in certain areas in your home gives that subconsciously, that gives you more that impact of joy. So it's all about how to affect your subconsciously to create this principle. So these are the two major books. And of course, the 13 Steps to Richness. I was very honored that Eric was asking me for this. We go way back as speakers, and, organized planning, I think, is a very a female thing. It's like women are really good at organizing their lives, their homes, their families, and for me, structure is a very important part. I always say to people, make sure you create a structure, not just only business-wise, but the structure in your life that you have not just time to do your business, but time for your family and time for yourself. And, I do believe in the principle, you can have it all. Yeah, I'm a successful business entrepreneur. I am, very well known, but I have an amazing family and I have great friends. And, I had to learn to balance all that, but you have to organize that, to be honest, also, right? But for me, the first key aspect is my home, my office. That needs to be really well organized.
Marie, so just want to comment on the chapter you're doing for organized planning. It's actually one of my favorite chapters. It's the longest chapter for the Steps to Riches. And I got to say, Napoleon Hill really went into so many different things that he didn't do in other chapters. I mean, 1937, the book was made during the Great Depression. The wars were going on. And as I'm reading this, I'm thinking of the time that we're in right now. And it's like almost like he's speaking 100 years into the future to us. And some of the things that he talked about, like, were spot on with the situation that's going right now. And somehow he wound up integrating that back with the topic, which was organized planning. So it was just a really cool chapter. I'm honored that you are a part of that.
I'm writing it for moments. So it's really like there for me. But it's true. I think what Napoleon Hill was very good in is to capture truths that were not only there in 1937, but are, like you said, almost 100 years later, still as valuable. And that's why it's an evergreen book. Like it's a book that will pass the times and will pass the times for hundreds of years, I'm sure. Because the truths that he put there are eternal truths. Yeah. And that's why, our dear Bob that passed on, brought that forward, and he practiced it every day, right? He always had his book with him, right? Like with an elastic around it because it fell apart. But that's the whole thing. I remember having this conversation with Bob, and I came to do the feng shui of his house and his company. And he said, Napoleon Hill said the environment is so important to create your richness. And he said, you are onto that, he said. And said, yeah, I know, I really understand that more and more, how the environment is important. I said, the feng shui masters would say it's like 30% of your impact for attracting success and money and abundance. He said, yeah, but I think Napoleon Hill thought it was about 50%. Yeah. If you organize your life and your structures around you, that it's about 50%. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I said, yeah, that's one of the things I heard over the years. And for me, it's like sometimes people say, but hey, I want to get to that next level, but how can I get there, right? And, I always thought, like, if I cannot get there yet, I can have at least a little Snapchat of it, like we call it Snapchats right now, but like a little taste of it. Yeah. And so for me, I wanted to have clients in Beverly Hills. When I came to America, I lived around LA, and I was like, oh, I want clients in Beverly Hills. How can I get to these clients? I mean, I cannot just go knock on the door and say, hey, I want to, So I actually went to the Beverly Hills Hotel, and I would sit in the lobby and I would read my books there. I would take time, and I would ask a glass of water, or I would a cup of tea.
Like, so you're marketing. You're a marketing expert.
I was a marketing expert. So I was like, and it was just connecting in with that vibration, because there's a vibration to richness. Yeah. And so I was just sitting there, dressing well up, makeup on, coming with my old car, right? But it doesn't matter, putting it on the streets and walking into the Beverly Hills Hotel. And then like a year later, I was having dinner with, my high-end clients of Beverly Hills. I was staying in the Beverly Hills Hotel. So it was just like, but I had to get a taste of it. And that's part of planning it also, planning the vibration, planning the energy. And I mean, I could have said, who am I? What am I thinking I can do here? But I do, and I always say to people, dress the part, be the part, make sure the house you live in is, looking the part to make that happen. So it's all about that. It's about putting the seeds already out and planning it already in your mind. Yeah, but in everything that you can, like simple things, like people say, I have to sign contracts. Well, I said, make sure you sign a contract with a gold pen. And they're like, a gold pen. I said, I cannot afford it. I said, but hey, you can buy a cheap gold looking pen for $2. So get that pen and start writing the contract, with that pen. So it's your special pen, or have, there's certain things you can do that doesn't have to cost a lot, but are just part of that organized planning that you're creating for the future.
That's a brilliant point. Thank you, Marie. So Marie, just to summarize, you have 2 major books. Is there any other books that you're part of?
Yes, we're actually at this moment preparing for a major book for next year. So, and of course, I've been part of many other books, of course, The Secrets, there have been many books I've been part of, so too many to be honest to name now.
Yeah, that's true. When you add in the concept of how many books were you actually published in, not that you wrote, or published in, it's probably a lot higher, right?
Oh, about 30, yes.
Yeah, that's what I figured. And that includes like testimonials, endorsements, forwards, stuff like that.
Forwards, yes.
Yeah.
Chapters, you know.
Yes, the opportunities start coming to you. Would you agree for book writing as you start advance into this influential game where you're building your brand name?
Yes.
They start attracting to you.
Yes, and you know, at some point you have to say, like, I have to make decisions which one and you always have to look at, is that a really good match for your brand? Is it a good match for my values? You know, that's also an important piece for me, because when I put my energy in it, like through my writing, through my name, through my brand, it needs to be really a good match energetically for me. And that's also important. So yeah, I received these opportunities, and too many sometimes to follow up, but I always still feel in my heart, is that the right one? And then I make a decision based on that.
Would you say writing now, like when you're doing these books for other people, you're putting it forward in a chapter, you're not getting paid for that most likely, or maybe you are, I don't know, but
Well, depends. You know, if they're like very successful friends of mine, of course, we give it, right? Sometimes people pay for that, but you know, you have to kind of see what you want to do about that. My major focus over all these years was really more creating online programs, home study courses. So my writing has gone much more to my online programs than to books at this point, but right now we're changing that more for the upcoming books. Yeah.
Okay. And the question was basically, if let's say you weren't getting paid, really the one of the logic behind going in and being part of that book would be to help your friends out, but also you can pick up some PR along the way, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, of course. It's, you know, there's PR that comes from it. Of course, you know, it's wonderful to give your information out, you know, to different kind of niche markets sometimes that you are not so easy to get in, right? Or to get into databases that you don't always have access to, right? So, you know, you have to sometimes really look, what is the purpose of the book? What is the reach of this book?
Yeah.
And is it going into an area where, you know, like, I have not an easy way in, marketing wise. So for me, that's also a point to make a decision.
You know, I'm noticing a lot of the people from The Secret are really, really good marketers, and they don't really put too much stress on that. Like Dr. Joe Vitale is like a marketing genius.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the more I talk to you, I'm starting to realize you really have that good marketing sense of how to pivot to the next direction.
Yeah, I think, you know, Joe is definitely a marketing genius. But, you know, I think it's also a lot of common knowledge about what people really need, what people are looking for. Listening, I always listen a lot to my students, listen to what the market is about. So it's like having your finger in it, like to understand what's going on. I listen very good to my customer service, like the emails we're getting. I'm really very close to my customer service I don't do it, but like with the head of the customer service, I always check, they send personal messages through our emails, so I know what's living. And then based on that, I make also decisions to my program, or what I need to bring. So I look very much also to the comments in YouTube, in my YouTube videos, like I check out Instagram comments to kind of see what is living in people's hearts and minds. And that is one of the crucial aspects, I believe, for marketing. Of course, they're all marketing tools and the funnels, and that's a traditional strategic information that my team does, right? It's not my forte, and I don't want to even, I know about it and know enough about it, but that's not my forte. But, you know, having the finger on the pulse.
I was waiting for you to say that.
That is something that I think is very important to have. And I see a lot of people don't do that enough. They're like, oh yeah, somebody takes care of my customer service. I remember Rhonda Byrne, the first 2 years of when The Secret came out, any letter, any email that came in, she read personally. She did not answer them always personally, but she answered about 50% of these emails the first 2 years. Yeah. And she got like, she said like, thousands and thousands, of course. Right. And I said to her, that is so smart, because now you know the reaction, you know what is living, you know what is the next thing that people need. Yeah. And to know, how to write your blog, or what to talk about in interviews, or so based on, listening. I know when I teach, when I present, when I do an interview, I know what people need to hear, what touches people's heart. And I think that's part of good marketing.
Yeah, the feedback.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it sounds like we could also summarize this with a new concept I learned. I never really used this until about a year ago. Emotional intelligence. The fact that you have that emotional intelligence, you can almost like a sixth sense, like you can you can feel like your finger on the pulse. You can feel what the collective conscience of a specific market is thinking and what they want, because you're listening.
I'm listening. And I think indeed the last years, a lot of leaders are focused more on that emotional intelligence. Of course, you need to have creative intelligence. You need to have your technical intelligence. I mean, there are many parts of intelligence, but I think that I would say my emotional intelligence has always been quite, on, and I'm really focused on that part. And I think that also made me very successful, to have that emotional intelligence, and to have that heart-based intelligence. I think emotional intelligence is heart-based intelligence, but I mean, they don't call it that way. It would not sell that well, but but I think that's so important, really listening to the feedback. And sometimes the feedback is not so fun to listen to or to read, but I'm very proud in my online marketing. A lot of people are talking a lot about how much refunds they have. They're like, well, 15-20% is refunds, right? We are so upset if we have 2 refunds a month. Wow. Yeah. So people, we have almost 0 refunds from online programs, what we sell. Yeah. And it's because we give more than they expected. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we give it with generosity. And so we have, no refunds to give every month. Like this month we had 1. Yeah. And this is thousands and thousands of people that buy our services, right? So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Maria. Appreciate that. And all right, so we're going to get into some questions. We're definitely, don't worry, we're going to touch on the Feng Shui pretty soon and the law of attraction. I just want to go over some basic stuff first. So maybe 1 to 2 minutes. I'd like to hear your story about The Secret. So how does it feel to be a part of the film The Secret that it's impacted, from what I understand, over 500 million people or something like that? Yeah. How's it feel?
It's, it's an honor to be part of it, right? So I do believe that it was the right information at the right time. Yeah. So I think Rhonda really got that information through, and then she attracted amazing people to be in the movie and also in the book, The Secret. And, for me, it was part of my journey that I already anticipated, since I was 15. And once that happened, it's been a mind-blowing journey for me to see people, knowing the book, the movie. I think the moment it really hit me when I was teaching in Bratislava in Slovakia, East Europe, and there were 600 women in the room, and I thought, like, I don't know if they know me, right? So I was asking, how many of you have seen the movie The Secret? And so all the hands went up. And I asked, okay, we'll ask a second question. How many of you have not seen or read the book, The Secret? And 4 hands went up. And that was in 2013. And I was like,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Was this in the Hotel Kiev?
No. No, I was in the Hilton Hotel
Okay.
in Bratislava. But the whole point was, that's when it hit me. Like, what an impact that this book went all the way over the world. And then I was teaching in Kazakhstan for 3,000 women.
Wow.
And it was the same thing. Like, perhaps 20 people hadn't seen The Secret, right? So that's when it hit me, like, what an impact that we have made, and continuing making it, because now people come up to me and said, oh, I saw you on Netflix, you know. So it's that impact. I think it's been, you know, an amazing journey, and I'm still super grateful to the universe, to God, that I'm part of that.
How did people in Kazakhstan know about it? Like, how many languages was it translated into? I didn't even know that. It was
translated in 37 languages.
Wow,
that I know
didn't
of.
know that.
Yes. Yeah. So that's one of the first things they did with the DVD, that each money that came in, they put it back into translations. Yeah. Wow. And so that's how it actually went so big, because they reused the income to do translations, right? And so I have, like, I think 20 DVDs in 20 different languages, and me myself speak it.
That's funny.
But it's really, I think that was a genius marketing strategy for them. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Thank you, Marie. Appreciate that. And we were actually, okay. So yeah, this is about The Secret as well. What is the secret to living a better life?
Well, I think the secret to a better life is, first of all, being grateful for the life that you have. Because how can you better your life if you are not already seeing the wonderful things that are already happening right now? And perhaps there is not a lot of great things happening right now for you, but there's always the fact that you're alive, the fact that you have friends, the fact that you have food. I mean, there are always people in places that have less than you. So, you know, being grateful already for what you have at this moment is a secret. And then to start writing goals. I am a big believer in writing goals, and to write down your goals of how you want to improve your life, how you want your life to be better. And to write it about all the aspects of your life, not just about money, but about relationships, about your health, about your journey. And I do believe connecting and visualizing, imagining, reading these goals will actually start changing the vibration around you. And so it is active. It's an activation, actually. It's an activation of every day focusing on the better life you wish to have. And the more you focus on something, the more you get of it. So that, I think, is the secret to a better life.
I love it. Thank you, Marie. All right. So my next question is, I'm sure you'll like this one. How to improve your luck? Can you tell us how to improve your luck?
Yes. So, well, you know, as a feng shui master, we see that there are several aspects to your luck. And so the first part is what we call your destiny. There are some people that are coming into this world and they have a little bit more luck than others. Like, it could be that you're born in a family that is really loving, or that you are born in a place where there is peace, right? Perhaps an abundant area, perhaps you have a talent, you know, for singing, or I don't know, whatever it is. So that's a luck, right? We all have aspects of luck. We all have skills. We all have things that come to us. Sometimes we have to look for them a little bit, but they're there. So there's, I call destiny luck. Yeah. The second part is we can create luck ourselves as a human being by making sure we have a mindset that is positive, that will create good luck. Having positive emotions, gratitude, that will create more good luck. Taking positive actions, being generous in the actions that you take will create luck, because luck means I get more of what I already have. And the third aspect is what feng shui masters believe in, is that your environment can create luck for you too. So that, you know, some people say, hey, I started a business in this building and I know everything went easy and flowing. And luck is when things go easy and are effortless. I think that is what luck is about. Things that are make life easy.
Mhm.
So when things are not going easy, it's like people say, I have bad luck. No, it's because they're hitting, a blockage, or they are not in the flow. So, and there are other places that people live in, like since I live there, I have all this bad luck happening, my money goes down, my business went down. So a house, a space can give you luck or not so good luck, but we can change that luck. That is what Feng Shui is about. We can change it. We can redirect the flow. So luck is actually flow of energy.
So if you had to boil luck down to one definition, how would you define luck? Like in one sentence or two?
How can you find luck? Is that your question?
Define luck, like definition.
It's being in the flow.
In the flow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Marie. Appreciate it. All right. I'm going to bounce on to a different topic here. Part of your story. So you had briefly glanced on it, but it was such an important part of what made you. You had said when you were 15, you got hit by a truck and actually died. So how does it feel to have died? What was that feeling like? Can you describe that process?
Yeah, so I was hit by a truck, and they declared me dead. And I was like, my mother came to the place, and she, tried to ask them to resuscitate me and to start again the process to get me back to life. But I was at that time already hovering over my body, and saw my mom there, and it was like, what's going on here? And then I kind of went like, it's almost like going through, if you take an airplane and you go to like, you're going up through the clouds, like, and you go to different layers of clouds, and suddenly you're above, in the blue sky, right? Well, it was like this. I was like going through this clouds and dimensions, but instead of being in the sky, I was in light. Yeah. And how did that feel? I mean, I felt very peaceful and in harmony, and I felt joyful. It was like, hey, this is great. It's a great adventure. And for me, then there were some beings of light there, and they told me, and I saw myself, I was really dressed like white. And they said, you need to go back. You're here to enlighten more than 500 million people. That was the message they gave me. And I came back, and I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest, to be back. So I was like, whoa, I'm alive again. But of course I was suffering. I had major trauma, major problems with my body. And so it was a couple of very tough years after that accident to regain my memory. I lost almost all my memory. I couldn't study anymore, and going from a straight A+ student to a straight F student. I mean, it was a depression for me for 2 years, till I really picked up again meditation more intensely and started understanding that there was a gift in that experience. And the gift was I got my purpose. Mm-hmm. And the gift was also that I really trained myself and used my brain in a different way through meditation. So there was a great gift in that experience. But the first 2 years, I was very disappointed to come back.
Wow. How did you get hit by a truck? Was it around your area, or were you crossing the highway?
I was coming from school, I was like 15 minutes from school. So I was on my bike. Everybody in Belgium drives bikes, and it's like Holland. And so I was driving home to get lunch with my family, and then to return to school. And there I was just hit by a truck that threw me, catapulted me in stones, and my whole face was ripped off. And it was quite an intense experience, but super grateful for it, to be honest.
You had said in a different interview when you died, and you sort of said this a little bit here, but you described it. It was very curious, that description. The people on the other side, they look like humans, but in the form of light.
Yeah.
I can almost imagine that. Can you describe that a little bit more?
Yeah, it's like, if I would look at you right now, but it's like light would shine from within you.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's like your physical body would not show exactly that. It's like, can you imagine that there would be like a light bulb here, and it's like all light comes out
Yeah.
of you, right?
Uh-huh.
So then the physical form would not be so perfectly seen, right? But it was like, that's what they call beings of light or masters of light, because, or angels of light, because they have that inner light, right? And I do believe we all as human beings can have that too, right?
Right.
So, but of course, we're still having a third dimensional physical body, but our inner light can show through our smile, through our eyes, through the way we present something, right? So I do believe we can do that too, but we're still in a physical body.
It almost sounds like a hologram, something that Facebook's working on right now with the metaverse. They have the holograms where you can like put something on your desk and you're looking at them. Actually, this is like Star Wars type stuff, but
Well,
they're actually from a
I
different.
have to be honest, when I saw Star Wars, when you see the Yoda and the other Jedis, when they have died and they're like, you see them and like they're shining, there's like an energy shining
Mhm.
from within them. That's when I told my husband that's how it looked like, So
Wow.
you're really good down. I can imagine the holograms, but if the light would shine out from within them, right?
Okay.
That would be the extra. Yeah.
Yeah, the special effects of the movie.
Special effects. Yeah, I'm sure they're getting there.
Yeah. Thank you, Marie. Appreciate that. All right. So can you explain the law of attraction in your own words? So this is one of the things you're also a master at.
Yeah.
What is the law of attraction in your own words?
Well, for me, it's a law of vibration. It's a law of energy. And so when we connect consciously with energy, with vibration, and we're adding an emotion to it, and of course, the best emotion is gratitude, is love, then it's like there is an exponential growth to that intention, to that goal that you want to attract. But you, of course, can also put a negative emotion on it, on that energy, like fear, like anger, the disappointment. And of course, that will also grow, because it says energy grows as the intention is connected with it. Yeah. So everything is energy. I mean, money is energy. What we're doing here is energy, right? Food is energy. Life is energy. So if you do that with a positive intention and you focus on that with positive intention, it will grow, because that's one of the things we have on this planet. There is evolution. Yeah. So we can evolve, we can grow, and we see that in nature, but we don't always understand that it's not just nature, it's everything that we put our focus on in a positive sense will grow. But also, if you put your negative sense, it will also grow, but it grows in a destructive way. Yeah. So that's why we have to be very taking special attention to what are the emotions we add to what we want. Because some people say, like, I want money, right? But then they have all this fear and they say, hey, it doesn't happen. No, because they're still adding the fear and perhaps disappointment and the guilt or the blame, what they have around things that happened, to the money they want to have. So it's really the positive aspect to it, the positive intention and feelings towards your goals, that will make your law of attraction grow.
Okay, that's beautiful, and this can happen for people too, right? You can attract people, not only things and material things. Like you can apply the same concept to attract people, right?
Yes, I mean, that is one of the marketing tools that I always use. I call it spiritual marketing, right? But it's like I every day also take time to meditate and send my blessings and my love and my gratitude to all my students and to everyone. This morning I was already in meditation to everyone that would be listening and watching us, sending them blessings already. That's what I did before I did the interview, The Secret. I meditated for 2 hours, just visualizing and putting the intention to the millions and millions and millions of people that one day would see me on that movie, because I felt it so strong that that was going to be a huge impact. And I think I saw it earlier than Rhonda did, and to be honest, I had to kind of tell her this is going to be big, and you have to take in big numbers here for this movie. And so, but that's the whole point. I am already grateful before it happens. Yeah. And that is a key point to the law of attraction.
What do you foresee happening with this podcast interview?
Ooh, I think, well, I visualize.
Maybe you know something I don't know.
I visualize millions of people for you, right? It's not just for me. This is for you. It's your baby, it's your thing. So I just visualize millions and millions of people for you, because that's my gift to you, right?
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate that. By the way, very interesting fun fact. Somehow I ended up into the psychic circle. I know it has nothing to do with finance per se, but a lot of like my publicist friends and stuff that I have attracted over the past few years are really into the visionary stuff. And I wonder sometimes, but I think it has something to do with basically your story and mine are very related in that way. Like you just can see things, manifest them before you close your eyes and they happen. It's weird. If you believe it, it really can happen. So
it does. And so, my story, like there were many magical moments in my life. And I would say, like, how can an international lawyer from Belgium, from a small city, get into The Secret? I'm like, there are some magical moments there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Marie. I think the common theme is visionary, right? Like psychic. And I talked to Daniel Burris. If you ever want to look at a good interview, I interviewed Daniel Burris. He's one of the top futurists out there. And I asked him specifically, I said, all right, you're a top futurist. Then you got visionaries. Then you got psychics, right? So like I've done a lot of real estate and people called me visionary because I was investing things that would happen 15 years later. Yeah. And it did, it worked. But then you got him, he's a futurist. And then you got psychics, but together, aren't we all like, we have this common theme of looking into the future and manifesting it somehow?
Yes, I think that is part of being a human, right? Is that we are always looking for a better future for our family, for ourselves, for our business. I mean, I think if you are not a futurist, I don't think you're a good entrepreneur, to be honest. If you're all the time looking back at the past and this went wrong and this is a failure and this was my highlight and you stay there, you're never going to continue a good business, a good flow of income. So you always have to anticipate and listen, to your audience, listen to the people, listen to your intuition. I do believe all successful people have a very, very good connection with their intuition. Sometimes they will call it their gut feeling. I don't care what you call it, but they have that little, they listen to something they feel and then they move forward to what they do. Like any idea I had, like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. People so many times said to me, you're crazy, you're special, and I said, yeah, well, time will show, right? Like you're stupid to go to live in America. Like, yeah, well, perhaps, right? So it's all this, it's like, you need to listen and believe what you feel. And if that is seen as a visionary or a futurist or somebody that believes in his intuition or follows that, I think it's all the same way. It's just a different,
word to express it.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Marie. I'm right with you on that one. All right, Marie. So we're doing great. Now we're going to talk about your favorite stuff. So what is Feng Shui? And then I want to talk about mirrors in your room for bad luck, because I agree with most of the things you say, except that one particular thing you'll have to convince me.
All right, I'll convince you that. Okay. So So yeah, feng shui means wind and water. So these are two elements of flow, right? If you think about wind, it flows, water, it flows. And so it is actually an energy system that was found about 4,000 years ago in China. And I do believe that at the time there were just shamans or people that were very much in tune with nature that could see probably the energy and were paying attention to how the energy is affecting us. And so they would build houses to make sure that they were, I would say, protected from the cold winds and would be open to the warm winds. That's actually the beginning. And I would say that's what any good farmer would do, right? Like if you talk to farmers, they would say like, I, did this for my crop because that's the right time for the sun and the wind to start my crop. So I think this was, common knowledge at the beginning. And I think it just evolved because more and more people were looking at what it really is, how are the principles of it. It's like with Napoleon Hill, there are principles to richness, right? So I do believe that there were some principles that, along the way, some of them start understanding. And about 2,500 years ago, that knowledge was really connected in with the emperors of China. And so the feng shui masters, the ones that mastered the wind, that's actually what, and mastered the water, they would actually advise and guide the emperors to build their palaces, to decide when they would go to war and when not. And that is the beginning, really, of feng shui. And then the compass was invented, and they started understanding what are these directions that the wind comes from. And they start building really the palaces and the buildings based on what is the perfect place to, first of all, have longevity. Their first focus was not money or power, it was longevity, because living a long life means you were becoming easier wealthy, and you were fertile, and you had a lot of kids and grandkids, because that was longevity. So the first focus of feng shui was not money, but was longevity. And it's only later when then the emperor used it, it became part of having power, because if you lived long, you had long power and a long reign, right? And then later on, it became connected with money, because if you had a lot of power, you got a lot of abundance. And so now in this world right now, since the late 50s, it started spreading to the Western world. It was always kept in the, I would say, the wealthy families and of China. It's only after the wealthy families left China and they took their feng shui masters with them that it actually went to Singapore, to Taiwan, to Hong Kong, and it spread from there. And it's only in the early 80s it actually came to America. So that information. So I was quite early on. I was 1991 when I started already dabbing into feng shui. The first information was when I was 15. That was 78. My mentor gave me already some basic principles I had to practice. And so that was, the way I was positioning myself in my room. All successful people, they always make sure they see the door. Yeah. So if you think about the president of the United States, where he's sitting on his desk, he can see the 4 doors in the Oval Room. He's never sitting with his back to a door. Yeah, that's like a very basic principle, but it's like being the king, the queen, the president. You will see people coming towards you, even if you're online. Like I'm sitting here and I see the door, even if nobody's come physically in this room, right? So it's called a power position. So that's like a first principle that people used. But then, of course, it became a whole elaborate system of energy. And that has been passed on. And I was one of the first European teachers in feng shui. I was very lucky to have attracted one of the most renowned grandmasters, not just a master, grandmaster, like the top 7 in the world that was teaching me. I was his first European student.
What was his name, Marie? What was it?
Grandmaster Yap Cheng Hai. He passed on a few years ago, but he was a tycoon himself. He was a multi-billionaire. And so when he retired, he loved so much feng shui, started teaching it and got some, personal clients. And so I was very lucky to attract him and to understand that it was not only affecting your richness, but also affecting your relationships, your health, your spiritual evolution. And so when I started really learning that, and I went to Malaysia for this because that's where he was residing, I started understanding, oh my God, this is the missing link to the law of attraction. Yeah, because a lot of people in the West, they're thinking it's all the mindset. I have to have a positive mindset. I have to think richness, right? And I get there and I take massive actions to get there. He said, 1/3 of your law of attraction is actually your environment. So your environment, setting it up in such a way that your energy is higher and your environment is breathing in and out the richness, the abundance, the love, the good luck, that is going to make it easier for your subconscious mind to get into richness, to get into abundance. And so once I started working with his information, it was like, I was successful in my business, but also because of my good feng shui. Yeah. And I got into America and I practiced right away this information. And one of the things that happens is your good luck opens up, like the flow is so much easier. So that's why people just, call me out of the blue or say like, oh, Marie, can you do this? Can you do this? Because my home is like a space of attraction. It's not just me that is attracting good luck. My space around me is attracting good luck. Yeah. And so your space around you is much bigger than you, right? So if that can attract good luck. And so, things have happened to me that I'm saying like, was it good marketing? No, I didn't even market myself. I didn't even know how to market myself here in America. And all these amazing things happened because I had a really good feng shui. But I set it up. It's something you can very easily, and that's what I do in my online programs or in my book, The Energy Number Book, and Transform Your Life. You can really set this up so that it's quite easy to do. Or you can start with my app, my free app. So it's just like some basic steps. It shifts your life so immediately, and so that your mindset and all the things you always wanted to have suddenly becomes easier and effortless, and you're with the flow of the wind.
Well, that's amazing. Now, you were doing the seminar stuff and all these other things before this feng shui really took off in your life, and this sounds like another example of where you're like a pivot queen. You were able to find a way to serve people, and you just went this direction. You pivoted from what you were doing before at a slight angle, same path kind of, but just a slight angle. And you went to feng shui, and this is what you're known for, Marie, right? This is,
I know.
Yes. You're happy with this final destination. Well, possibly this destination. I don't know about final destination.
Yes, of course. It was really interesting because I started more as a motivational spiritual teacher, right? But I started understanding that a lot of people could not get to the next level because their home was not aligned with their purpose and with their vision. So I started bringing that in, and then because it's such a practical information. But of course, when I teach feng shui, I still work with a lot of meditations, and for me, it's a way to bring them to a higher level of their energy. So that I'm known as a global renowned feng shui master with more than 1 million students online. I'm totally okay with that because I really make a huge impact. And if I would not have been the feng shui master, probably I would not have been in The Secret. It's like, because that was a different angle I spoke about. And right now, it makes me unique. And still, people start there and then they start following my meditation courses. And so it's all perfect.
So when did you know that you were going to be the feng shui person? What the story from hearing you so far, it sounds like the moment you had the conversation with Bob Proctor and he mentioned Napoleon Hill talking about environment, and you're doing that, you should do more of that. It sounded like, was that the push that gave you more to go into this direction?
I would say it was a confirmation. I was already going on that direction, and I always kept spirituality and meditation as one of my core activities for sure in my online programs. But I think it gave a confirmation that somebody like Bob Proctor, right? That by then I figured out was an amazing person and very well known. That said, like, Marie, this is something, you know, you need to focus on. And I said, yeah, but there's the feng shui world. And he said, no, bring that into the self-help. That's what he's suggested. And I think that was, you know, an amazing, you know, advice.
Insight. Yeah. Thank you, Marie. And I agree. We're gonna actually talk about that. Oh, the mirrors in the room. Yeah, let's talk about, before I get to the next question. Can you sell me on that? Now, listen, I got to preface this. So I actually have a real estate background besides all the other stuff I do.
Yeah.
Grew up in a real estate environment, built houses. And so the things they teach in construction are a little bit different. Yes. Now, we do have a Chinese community in Philadelphia. There's actually Chinatown, and they have buildings that were built that are feng shui. Like they actually have the symbol and all that. And I don't understand it much, but I know that for those people that are into that, they specifically look just for those type of buildings. Yeah. But what they teach you in general construction is that when you add mirrors, it actually opens up the room because it creates a longer, in certain rooms, it creates a vision of a longer perceived room, which more openness sells better. At least that's the trend today.
I get that.
So
yeah, so I understand that, and I agree about, you know, mirrors in strategic places can really open up a space. Yeah, so for example, in restaurants, I would definitely say do mirrors because you're creating more openness, right? In a dining room, in a living room, even in the office, sometimes that's really good. But what a mirror does as a symbol, right? It doubles. Yeah, when you look at the mirror, it doubles. Right. Yeah, and so when you double something that is active and is like you're talking, you're working, you're having fun with your family, great, you're doubling it. So the law of attraction is doubled of what the mirror sees. Now, when you are putting a mirror and you are doubling somebody sleeping, you're doubling the sleep, but you're also doubling the loneliness. If it's a person by themselves, they're doubling by being by themselves, or they're doubling, you know, the two people that are there. So what the University of Beijing has done some studies about that, and they have seen when there's mirrors in the bedroom that there's faster, higher blood pressure, more white blood cells, what create more inflammation. So they actually have checked out people and followed them for a longer amount of time to see that it actually augments and increases the stress level of people. Yeah. And so I always say to people, yeah, of course you can have mirrors, but make sure at night you cover them. Yeah, or you put a screen in front of them, or you put a, you know,
shut the light out.
Yeah, well, the light out when you wake up, you know, there, right? So even a television. So many times people that have a hard time to sleep or fall asleep or wake up in the morning like really refreshed, I said, why don't you give it a try? Yeah, just start with give it a try, put a screen in front of it or hang something over it or put a curtain or just, you know, open the sliding door so that the mirror is not where your head and your heart is. Yeah, so you kind of open it. They all tell me I never go back in closing that mirror. So they always feel the difference in their sleep patterns. So, you know, I always say to people, I understand you doing it, but it's actually ultimately a no-no from a feng shui perspective and a well-being perspective. And so just give it a try.
Now, what if you kept a suitcase of money on the desk in your bedroom and it put several mirrors and it just like infinitely expanded the money and through the mirrors? Would that change the situation? Now you got all this money from one
I wouldn't do it in the bedroom, you know, because I would say you don't make money in the bedroom. Yeah, right. Unless certain jobs, right? So, right. You know, that's why, for example, in a shop when they have a cashier and that we put a mirror because it doubles the money coming in. Yeah, so you can play with that. Of course, there's possibilities for that, but you have to see it's more about always thinking what is it doubling. Right. So sometimes people put a mirror and on the other side, of that mirror, they put like an image of a lion that attacks. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, well, then there are two attacking lions, right?
Right.
And they have like a table in between, and everybody's fighting on that table. Well, right, you're between two attacking lions.
Yeah, that's true.
So you have to be a little bit careful about what is it representing, what is it doubling. That's the whole idea behind it. So I don't know if I sold you on it, but give it a try.
Okay. Thank you, Marie. Appreciate that. All right. So now this ties into the Feng Shui. There's a series of 3 questions I'm gonna connect to. What is the importance of environment? Why is environment so important?
Well, we are not just a physical body. We know we are an energy field. And so your environment is actually, like I call it, a 3-dimensional vision board. Everything that is around us gives us a subconscious message. And we know the law of attraction uses, and manifestation uses, the subconscious more than the conscious level of our brain. And so even if we don't pay attention to it, it still is there. So if we go into our house and it's chaos and there's all kinds of things around us, how can you really create order, create richness, create abundance if everything is chaotically around you? Your mind after a while will become chaotic and you will not be able to concentrate. That's why when you go into the houses of the super wealthy, it's all super clean. Of course, they have a whole staff. In the beginning, you have to be your own staff and make sure it's all organized, right? But also the images that are around you. If you have images around you that talk about war, that talk about poverty, how can you be successful? What the wealthy have, they will have the awards up, the certificates up, they will have images of their family up that were successful, there were, the portraits. So they're all the time subconsciously saying, I am like them. That environment is actually affecting me all the time, 24 hours a day. 8 hours when you're sleeping, 8 hours where you work, and 8 hours where you live. So nonstop, you're giving that information. I always say to people, just, take on a new way to look at your house. Open the door and like, how would God, how would the universe, how would my client look at when I come into this house? Would he say like, oh, of course I'm going to pay you that money because you are a successful person, or you come in and it's all chaos? Like I have people saying like, I want to be successful in my online business, and you should see their desk. It's impossible to be successful. Yeah. Right. So think about, people give you value, give you money for your services, but you need to, as we say, play the game. You need to, not fake it, but you have to surround yourself with order and beauty and abundance. And that abundance can be a beautiful bouquet of flowers instead of all boxes and files, like all papers, totally mixed on your desk. I mean, what you see affects your mind and ultimately affects your money.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Marie. All right, Marie. So this is a little bit of, we're going to take this in an interesting direction. So we're talking about environment. So how do you change your environment when you have no money or control to change anymore? So let me preface that question. So a lot of people, like I live in Philadelphia, it's one of the largest cities in the country. It's a lot of poverty here. You can go in certain neighborhoods, the neglect of the neighborhood is falling apart. The houses are old. People don't have any money to fix it up. They're living in there. They got like my old house. I had, a leak on my roof. I had, electricity running through my water. I don't have any money to fix it. Like, there's many people living like that, and they don't have the money to fix it. And they might subscribe to everything you're saying, but how can they change their immediate environment if right now at this moment, I'm talking about not the future, but like this present moment, they can't do it because they don't have the funding to fix that up? Maybe they'll clean the house, but they can't really fix the rest of the issues.
I know. I started there. I mean, we lived in a house that we couldn't fix, right? And so I know that. And I lived in a very small studio because I did not have the money, right? So I call it Feng Shui on a budget, right? So I have a very good YouTube video on that one, actually.
Wow.
So the first thing is to let go of anything in your home that you're holding on to that is not longer serving you. Yeah, could be papers, could be clothes. It's like clean up, let go. And of course, you cannot clean that leak right away or fix this, but let go of everything that is. Clean it, like literally. Don't think about, oh, that's a leak. No, whatever is there, make sure it's as nice as possible. Yeah, that's the first rule. Yeah. The second rule is you need to see and understand how your energy is actually connected with success. And that's why people, for example, they go to my website, they get a free energy report, and it tells them where is their success direction. Yeah. And so find out in your home, where is your success energy? And that can be a compass direction that is southwest or north or east, depending what that is. Always in the places where you sleep, live, and work. Yeah. And that's not your kitchen, that's not your bathroom. Okay. You are going to see what is in my success direction there. So if there is clutter, you declutter it. If there's images or statues or books that are like telling a different story, take that out. Put there books on success, put there perhaps your certificate, put something that really makes you smile when you look at it. It gives you a feeling of abundance, it gives you a feeling of success. As you're placing it there, you're already changing the energy around you. Yeah. So I remember we were living, my mom and I, in a house that was just like falling apart. We did not have the money for it. Yeah. So I activated her success direction, and I have activated my success direction. And in the success direction, we even wrote down exactly what we wanted as a house. Yeah. So we described it like all the things we wanted: a house without leaks, a house without mold. We had mold everywhere. So we had flooding happening. I mean, it was terrible. And so literally within a few months, we moved 3 houses further by coincidences that started happening. Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying to people. I have people that told me I was homeless and started listening to YouTube videos. And now they are able to afford my hourly price.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So because wherever you are, even in their car where they were living, they were practicing the simple techniques. And there's a law of attraction techniques that they change the energy around them. Wherever you are, you can do that. I've done it in hotel rooms. I can done it in studios, in cars. You can do it anywhere. And you just make sure your personal success energy is stronger. And then people start attracting jobs or a check or rebates or, whatever it is, they start attracting something different. So you don't have to suddenly have money for it. You all have always a book on success. Perhaps you have Napoleon Hill book, right? Or you have a book of Dr. Finance or my book or, whatever it is. Get a book, and we all have some things. And you can, if you don't have it, you can work with colors. There's certain colors that you can put around you that changes your subconscious mind. If I got out of a house that was infested by mold and leaks and flooded, and now I have 3 homes, in multi-dollar homes, in big places in the world, right? I'm telling you, you can do it. And I practice this, every time. And I each time went to a new level. And I've seen this with hundreds of thousands of my students. You don't need a budget. You just need to take some action.
That's great points. How about if you're homeless though? Can you apply Feng Shui to the extreme form of homelessness?
Yes, of course you can. Yeah. So I was just talking last week with a homeless person, and I was, meeting him, and he's like, oh, he's talking to me, and I said to him, you need some good tips. I said, the way you sleep, the direction your head is when you're sleeping will affect your good luck. Yeah. So he got my, he had a phone. So I had my app. It's for free. I told him what to do. I said, always sleep that direction for you. And he said, I'm going to give it a try. I mean, there's free information. Yeah. You just need to know how to do that. What happens when they sleep the right direction is like your brain opens up and go into alpha brainwaves. When you sit in a certain direction, like I'm facing right now west, but for me is really good. When I'm facing a good direction, my brain is concentrated, is happy. I'm in alpha. When I'm in the wrong direction, I go into beta. And when I'm in beta, I'm more fear-based. I don't see the solutions. I get faster depressed. So it's all the directions. And that's one of the things you learn in my programs.
Is that a belief though, or is that scientific?
Oh, it's not a belief. Yeah. This is really connected in with your DNA. Yeah. So, people would say, well, I can believe it. I say, well, you don't have to believe it. Even if you don't believe it, give it a try and see how it changes. So it's actually aligning yourself with the flow of energy of your DNA when you were born.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Marie. Appreciate it. Excellent responses. So taking that to the next level, how can you apply Feng Shui to neighborhoods? So you talked about homeless, you talked about homes. Let's take that a little bit further macro, not too far. Let's go neighborhoods. So I got a neighborhood in Philadelphia. There's neighborhoods everywhere in big cities like this, right? How do you do Feng Shui? How do you clean this neighborhood, especially when the neighborhood's not so good? You got criminals in the corner selling drugs all day long. How do you Feng Shui that?
Well, I have done some work with some real estate, properties, and in certain areas that were, a lot of poverty and crime. So I call that city Feng Shui, right? So it's actually a part of Feng Shui, city Feng Shui. So one of the things I always say, make sure your door is always painted, in a really good color, like nice, so that it's not like degraded. Make sure you put a beautiful carpet in front of the door. The best would be if you have an area where there's crime and poverty, is to put, because crime and poverty creates a lot of yin energy, a lot of static energy. Yeah. So to uplift it, put a red carpet in front of your door. Yeah, just a red carpet, because it gives a balance, and it gives more fire energy and better positive energy. Just a red carpet. Put, if you can, if you have a garden, make sure there are some flowers, so try to have some flower pots out if you can. It's not always possible, right? But just that carpet, and cleaning your front door will actually give subconsciously to the people passing by some other feeling. And we have really seen a shift happening just by changing the entrance of the door of houses. Make sure also when you have windows, that what people see on the windows, there's some flowers, some plants. So because these neighborhoods, don't have nature, right? They don't have parks, they're gray. So make sure that from the window people see plants, because then they feel like, oh, I'm in nature subconsciously. These are simple techniques, but really make a huge impact in neighborhoods. Very simple, but it's possible.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I've actually not only built houses, I've helped build neighborhoods. And that's some of the things that we do. Painting the door, it definitely works. Everything you said, 100% works. The problem is you got to have someone that's an investor or a pioneer in that neighborhood that has the money to start doing that. Because the regular people that are here, they don't. I was driving through a section of Philly a few days ago, listening to an interview of yourself, and it was one of the more declining neighborhoods of Philly. And as I'm driving through, I'm thinking about this question. I'm getting like depressed just driving through. Like, it hasn't been fixed in 50 years. The houses are completely like they were once red brick. They're black from the pollution of the cars, and it just. People driving by are feeling like, okay, I'm entering something bad here, bad space. Yeah. And if they only painted it or did something like what you just said, like, can completely change that.
It really can, but sometimes that is not even possible. But then I would say, when you drive through these neighborhoods, at least for you, imagine that neighborhood to be fixed up. Yeah, because if you go in, you're like, oh, it's so terrible, look what is going on. Pass by the people and bless them from your heart, do some energetic, good focus towards them, smile at them, wave at them. I mean, when I was in LA, I've gone through these neighborhoods. I worked with some of the charities there. And so I always like come in not judging them, whatever they are, right? So if we go in and we already start imagining and seeing, like, they can't do it, but I imagine already the doors are in this color and I have flowers there. And so it just already, if we imagine, because these people cannot even imagine that anymore. Yeah. So at least if we raise a bar for them, even perhaps one person will pick it up in their mind. I am really big in, when you have a blessing for them, or you have a visualization for them, that they will pick it up. One person will suddenly will think, oh yeah, you know what, I could paint my door, I have some paint left. It's sometimes small little things, but if you cannot do it physically, do it energetically.
Beautiful. Thank you, Marie. Appreciate that. Excellent tips. Can we take this one level higher to apply it to countries? All the stuff that's happening in Ukraine right now, with Russia just invading them, people are very, very negative of the future. How do you apply Feng Shui to countries? Like, can you take any particular country with a lot of issues and just Feng Shui it and make it, organize it a certain way so that it can be more productive?
Well, first of all, I want to say that when I work with my students, I tell them, look, there's, in order to create peace, there is an area in your home that you really need to activate. But when you activate something, always activate it, not just for you, but for all of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? So there is right now, conflict is in the East Europe, right? East this year has, Feng Shui is all about also flow in time. And so East this year is actually the conflict. Yeah. And I told my students that there would be, in November already, I saw already that there would be a huge conflict in East Europe. Yeah. And so I told them already, because there's, like, you can see how the flow of chi is. And so what people can do is put a red candle or 3 red small candles in the east of their living room, and lit that candle redly. It needs to be red because that's the color for changing the conflict. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so by lighting this candle and doing some prayer, some meditation, but not just to release the conflict in their home, but release the conflict in all over the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So whenever you place something in your home, don't just do it for yourself, do it for humanity. That's the first rule that we always say. Now, you can change the energy of countries. There have been a few times in my life when I was asked to work with prime ministers, to work to Feng Shui in a parliament. I cannot say from which country, but I'm just going to tell you that country was bankrupt at a certain point. So you can start researching, in the north of Europe. So, they asked me to come for the parliament and to check out what was going on. Or I do believe if the major house of the people, right, it could be the house of the president, of the king, if that has good Feng Shui, or the prime minister, that will actually affect the whole country. I remember when I was working with the prime minister in Belgium, we just came out of a very deep financial crisis. We Feng Shuied the whole prime minister's office. And then within 2 years, he was able, with new ideas, to get us out of a very deep financial pit. Yeah. So I do believe the leaders of the country, if they have Feng Shui, they will make better decisions, for the whole population. Yeah. Another thing that I always suggest to people is, of course, cleaning up the capital, cleaning up the cities would be great. Also, places where there's a lot of fountains. Yeah. Think about Italy. It has a lot of fountains, right? It will also create a lot of good family luck and, joy and fun. So I always say to people, if we could put more fountains in the big cities, people would thrive so much more, because it's a flow of water. So can we do the Feng Shui of countries? Yes, I've worked on that already. And but we need so much more work towards that. And for right now in the Ukraine crisis, we cannot always be there present. but we can do energetic good feng shui by prayers and meditation for the people that are out there, and you know, and helping as much as we can in donation, in taking time. You know, if you cannot do something, you can always take time to pray and do some meditation. Yeah.
Thank you, Marie. That's beautiful points. And actually, you came at it from a different direction. I wasn't expecting that, but it makes so much sense. The country's too big, so let's go for the leaders and feng shui to replace. I like that. That's a brilliant point.
Yeah. So we need some good feng shui for the White House.
Yeah, exactly right.
But you know, the White House has an issue because the oval chamber, right? Yeah. It's oval and it's missing 4 corners. Yeah. And so because of that, there's certain areas that always will be a problem in America. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Marie. All right. So maybe just a minute. We have a few more questions. Figure about a minute each. We can make good timing. Why are you're doing great, by the way. So this is one other important topic that I know you're an expert on. It's the last one in that regard. That it's really what you're known for. Why are vision boards important? And can you explain what a vision board is for people that don't know anything about that stuff?
Yes, of course. So a vision board is actually a paper that you take, right? And you going to put on that paper like a visualization of the goals that you have, right? So people write down goals. And goals are more the analytical side of the brain, while we also need to open up to the creative part of the brain. So a vision board is like we are bringing goals into a visualization, not just a visualization in our mind, because we can say, oh, I'm imagining going to this beautiful place in the world on a holiday, right? And you think it one time and you forget about it. A vision board is like, it's like you're putting that image of that trip on that paper. You write down the goal, like I'm going to visit Hawaii, right? So you also need to write some goals, and so both the words and the images together, and you put it on the vision board, and then you put it strategically. And that's a key point that I always say, put it in your success direction. So there's a specific area in your space you can put it. And as you're placing it there, you can look at it. I'm a big fan of it. I manifested many things by looking at a vision board. And it's not just you hang it there and you never look at it. You need to connect with it. You need to read the goals. You need to like, oh, look at this image. It's like an ongoing connection, but it helps your brain to focus on what your goals are, because just writing something down or thinking I'm going to visualize it, but then you have a constant visualization. And that is what a vision board is. It became very successful from The Secret. I have a very specific system to use it based on your birthday. And that is, you know, one of my programs that we always do, because there's certain colors, certain words that for your birthday will be different than other people's vision boards.
Wow. That's incredible. Thank you, Marie. All right, Marie. So you have a lot of A+ list celebrity clients, all kinds of famous people. You're more than welcome to mention names if you want, but if not, can you describe what have you learned from them? If you can boil it down to maybe, 30 seconds or so.
Well, I have learned from my celebrity clients that, even if they're very successful and famous, they all want love. So they're always like calling me in for love, for family issues that they have. So they're just human beings, it's not because they have name and fame. They want their home to really be warm and loving, and so that their family can thrive. That's kind of what I learned, that they're just normal human beings that just want a good family.
That's a great point. Thank you. All right. So we're going into some template questions now. I ask every guest. So I figure about 30 seconds to a minute each, and we'll make good timing. Can one book change the world?
One book can change the world. And I think The Secret actually did make a big change. I think the book of Napoleon Hill changed the world. Think about even religious books like the Bible changed the world. I mean, I do believe one book can change the world, but not when you read it once. You have to then go deeper into the book and read it over and over again and open it up and see like what jumps out to you to help you. So I do believe, I'm a big believer in books. So yes. go for it.
All right. Thank you, Marie. Okay. What role has networking played in your life?
Wow. Well, when I started, I had no idea that networking was so important. Yeah. So for me, networking is key. Not just for my own business, but also to pass on the networking. It's like when somebody I'm meeting, I was like, how can I help you? What can I do? What's your next thing you need? Like, oh, I don't know how to do it, but I know somebody that can definitely help you. And I immediately put them together and said, hey, you're my friend. This is a new person that I think should be helpful. And I've learned the more I help other people with my network, the more my network helps me.
That's beautiful. That's an abundance mindset for you folks. And it works, but it's a rare quality, right, Marie? All right. Thank you, Marie. All right. So the next question follows that. Is mentoring important? And who were some of your mentors?
Well, I'm a big believer in mentoring. I'm a mentor to many beautiful people in the world. And so my mentor, of course, my Feng Shui Grandmaster was a mentor. I would say one of my mentors, my first mentors, was my mom. I think it's beautiful if you have one of your parents or perhaps both parents that can be your mentor. And still today, even if she has passed on already a few years, sometimes her words come up and like, oh yeah, that is this beautiful truth that my mom said. I can still use that. And I had many mentors on my path, sometimes spiritual mentors or energetic mentors, but also my daughter is sometimes my mentor, especially with everything to do with social media. She's a great mentor. Mom, you should do this. Mom, you should do this. So I think life itself is the greatest mentor. And so listening to what people bring you. I'm not going to point one specific person, but I think everything I experience in life is my mentor.
That's a great answer. I like the line, life is the greatest mentor. That's it's so true. Even people who don't want to go to school or don't do any of that stuff, eventually they're going to learn. Life's going to teach you somehow.
Correct.
Thank you, Marie. What are your favorite financial books? Maybe 30 seconds, if any.
Wow. I would say, I think the book of Napoleon Hill, Grow Rich, Think Rich, has definitely been my a very beautiful inspiration. I also think the book from I'm just I'm blank on the name right now. Ken Honda is a beautiful book that he wrote about money. So these are some books that I sometimes just open. For me, it's not like one big one standing out, but also the latest book that I read was Money from Tony Robbins. So big one, very good. I love that. I got a lot of aha moments from that book. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Marie. All right. Do we need money to survive?
Yes, to be honest, we need some basic amount of money to survive. Yeah. But I don't want to see it as a survival tool. Yeah. I think what really helps us to survive is our creativity. Yeah. Being creative with the money that you have, being creative with the skills, with your contacts that you have. There have been times in my life where I was myself homeless, where I self had no money, right? So I've been through all that, my experiences. And I'm telling you, it was not the money that survived me. It was my creativity that helped me survive, and my gratitude for any moment I had. Even in that experience, I was even grateful for that. And staying joyful, in that moment, even if it was very, very tough for me and my family, I would say that helped me to survive more than.
Thank you, Marie. All right, Marie, is finance necessary for everyone? Now I'm talking about finance, the science of finance, not necessarily what sometimes misconceived as funding. It's not funding, it's
Yeah,
finance
I
to
think
science.
we need some basic real information, what we're missing in the educational level,
Yeah,
right? For sure. That's a big problem, I think, for a lot of people, that we don't learn how to do finance. I learned some of that in college. Most of it I learned on the road, on the way in my life. And so, but, the science of finance is a very important part. And I think this is one of the first things they have to introduce in the current educational system. It would save so many people's, suffering.
yeah, I agree. Thank you, Marie. All right, 3 questions left. How important is having a purpose in business, and what is your purpose?
Well, I think it's very important to have a purpose in your business. And, my purpose is to enlighten more than 500 million people. So, of course, I have goals towards that. Yeah. But a purpose is very important for me, because when I make decisions towards my business, I always want to see if it aligns with my purpose. Yeah. So purpose is not like something, oh, I have a purpose. Now you need to make sure that your decisions, your team, is aligned with that purpose. Because if I talk to a new team member and their vision is not aligned with my vision, then I cannot really hire them. Yeah. So, or if I need to make decisions, or even coming on a podcast, I make that decision always to connect it with my purpose. And if that, that's synchronicity, that works together, then the answer will be yes. So it's a very important, it is almost the golden thread through my business.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Marie. All right, Marie. So the next question is, what would you like to accomplish in the next 10 years or so, and why?
Well, I think one of the things I really want to accomplish in the next 10 years is, as I'm very well known for my online teaching and my speaking, I have not yet that #1 best-selling book, that, New York best-selling book. So that's one of the things I want to accomplish in this coming 10 years. But that's more on a personal level. I'm very happy with my family and my business and my work. So all that is great. But I think in the next 10 years, I'm almost, turning 60 next year, is like the next 10 years that I really prepare my legacy, to make sure that my work is an ongoing contribution to humanity, even, when there will be one day no Marie Diamond anymore. And I hopefully live beyond next 10 years. But another thing I really want to accomplish is to bring this information that I have to people that, cannot afford it, and can be perhaps through television series or podcasts, or, to have more of that information available in a way that people that cannot afford it can still have access to.
Thank you, Marie. Just to clarify, you said you want to have a #1 New York Times best-selling book, right?
Yes.
You're manifesting that.
I'm manifesting that right now.
That's going to happen now. Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. Last question, Marie. So speaking of legacy, what would you like to be your legacy to the world? Like, what's your exact legacy? You get to control how you want to set it up. And today's the day. How do you spell that out to the world?
Oh, that's a good question. I think my legacy would definitely be that, as a woman, yeah, that you can have all great good energy in your life. Yeah. So that a lot of women think I can only have a few things. Yeah. I do believe that as a woman, we can really have all the good things in our life. So the empowerment that I could give women through what I have accomplished, that would be a great legacy for me, for the future generation of young women, for sure.
That's awesome. Thank you, Marie. Okay, Marie. So we're at the end of this. We went a little bit over, but it was an incredible interview. You had some amazing responses. All your responses were amazing. And I want to briefly leave the floor for you to tell us about whatever your new projects are, anything you want to talk about, your books or whatever you're doing now. The floor is yours, Marie.
Thank you so much, Anthony. So I would say, first of all, get your app, the Mary Diamond app, because that is like the first step to connect with, and go to my website and get your energy report so you can start really practical on these things. And then what I definitely would suggest, check out my magical programs, because that's where we focus on setting up your vision board, setting up your home as a vision board. So check out the website and look that up. And of course, I would say there's always so much new, wonderful things happening in my world. So sign up for my Instagram, Mary Diamond 8. And 8 is the luckiest number in Feng Shui. That's why I have Mary Diamond 8. And, get to my YouTube channel. And I just, learn some of the techniques and the information I have to share with you to really improve your life and that of your family and your business. And so then you will definitely be updated on some of the projects that are coming. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Where can they find out more information about yourself?
Well, marydiamond.com is my website. That's easy. Instagram, Mary Diamond 8. They can find me on my Mary Diamond YouTube channel. I have a clubhouse. We do weekly now, the Energy Club on Sunday. So you can start joining that, where I always go about the topic of energy. And then I am open to questions and answers. So it's a wonderful possibility to talk to me directly. Thank you.
That is awesome. Thank you, Maria. And folks, also, if you're getting this in time, this is the day before, but tomorrow night, so it's Friday, when does it be? March 4th, between 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern time, Maria will be on my in my club called the Finance Club. The room is hosted every Friday from about 6 p.m. to midnight Eastern time, but the main guest speaker comes between 7 and 9, and Marie will be the superstar tomorrow. So if you get this in time, by the time I get the video out to the public and you still have time, mark it on your calendar. It's going to be incredible. So thank you again, Marie. I want to thank you for being here today. You've been an incredible guest.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And good luck with everything.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure we'll do a lot of cool stuff. I know you're going to like the stage tomorrow. A lot of your friends they come every week. Dory Cordova comes. She's from the book. Alex Stern from 13 Steps also comes. And Eric will be there tomorrow too. He'll be co-hosting with me. Yeah, great. So appreciate it. All right, well, thank you, everyone. You've been listening to the Dr. Finance Live podcast. This is Dr. Anthony Criniti IV, also known as Dr. Finance. If you want more information, check out the website, drfinance.info. Don't forget to get on the newsletter. I'm trying to get a database like Marie's, where I got millions of people. But check it out. It's got everything you wanted, all the podcasts. The podcasts are going to be sent out to everywhere, including YouTube especially, but all the major podcast directories. Also, if you want more information about my works, I got 3 major books. The Necessity of Finance was my first book. I wrote it over 10 years ago as a university professor about an overview of finance, but also made some major conclusions, which led to my second book, The Most Important Lessons in Economics and Finance. And finally, the grand finale, The Survival of the Richest, a 500+ page book, tying economics, biology, and survivalism to, believe it or not, and finance together. And we did talk about environments, dear Marie, because I weaved in the concept of nature into the discussion, from the biologists, the scientists, the biologists, some of the greats. So thank you, folks. Check it out and subscribe, and as well to Marie's website and all her social media platforms. And we'll see you again on the next episode. Thanks again, folks. Thanks, Marie.
Thank you.